Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday and welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Friday, the 5th of September. I'm Derek Clark and I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barry. How goes it, Joshua?
Yeah, it goes fine. Derek. We've had a bit of a quieter week after what felt like a very busy few months. So, yeah, I'm all good, mate. Good to be here. And I hope that everyone watching and listening as well.
Yep, it's actually flew in this week, I've got to say. I was thinking that international breaks are usually a bit of a drag and you're counting down the days until the real football, as I call it, returns. But we certainly was busy. We were busy yesterday, given the Kevin Thelwell interview at Rangers TV, the European squad that was announced as well. And today what we're going to do is we're going to invite questions, folks. So we're going to record a bit of a Q&A. So if you've got a Rangers-related question, or maybe not, that is on your mind that you want to get across, then please do so in the comments, and myself and Joshua will do our very best to answer it. Now, quick word for our podcast sponsors before we dive in. Willows Fencing, the Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust, and proud partners of the Rangers Review. They've got over 20 years of experience in the fencing game, and they offer free consultations, 10% off as well if you use the code Rangers Review over on their website, willows-fencing.com. So do go and check them out, folks. Right, before we delve into a bit of a Q&A, this is the first time we've had you on, Joshua, since our marathon deadline day special on Monday evening, which was very well attended. Thousands of you tuned in, so thank you for doing so. And it went pretty well. But the squad is now shaped up, and for me, Russell Martin has the tools at his disposal. There are no excuses now. He has to go and utilise those tools and get results. But interesting point, you had a piece on the website about the story of the Rangers transfer window. Do go and check it out, folks. It's a good read. But your question was, do Rangers have a spine, and have they recruited a spine in this summer window? What is your assessment of the business that was done, and do Rangers have a spine, which is necessary, I feel, certainly, to go on and win a league title?
Yeah, it is necessary. Do they have a spine? I'm going to answer, I'm not sure yet. They've spent a lot of money, Derek, and I think a few days on, a bit of space from the window, a bit of space from the day-to-day of it, where it felt like every day there was a new player to kind of check in on. A lot of stories, a lot of a change in circumstances. And what I would say from the outset, my main feeling coming away from that Old Firm game and into this week is there's opportunity. There's real opportunity that Rangers should be able to take advantage of. And I think that came through a bit in Kevin Thelwell's interview as well, where he reiterated quite a few times that there comes a line where you got to stop speaking and do it.
Yeah.
And September is the time for that. Rangers can't go 5 league games without a win. And they can't afford to not claw back some of that distance on Hearts. And they need a few performances, which you've not had, I don't think, so far. Need a few performances to really give you an idea of this is what it should look like. I think aside from Victoria Pilsen, you've not had that. My pessimistic view of it would be that I think a lot of money's been spent. And listen, it was great to see an investment in a Rangers team. A lot of money has been spent comparatively to recent years, Derek. And I look at that team and I think, do you have 9 or 10 guaranteed starters? The experienced players that you've brought in, are they going to usurp the kind of experienced players, the leaders from the last team? And the obvious example so far is Rothwell and Aarons, who are not usurping, for me, James Tavernier and Nico Raskin. I think you're banking on Derek Cornelius being very good to be a player that you can build around in defence. And similarly, Yusuf Chermiti, I've been speaking to some of his youth coaches in Portugal this week, and lots of interesting detail about how highly he is rated. And again, we don't know how good he's going to be because he's only 21 years old, but it's a lot of money to invest in potential. So I think Rangers have improved their quality in some areas of the squad. I'm not sure if the right side is stronger. If you think of Václav Cherny there last summer, who went for about £5 million in the end to Besiktas.
Yep.
You look at the number of loan deals. That's still my question at the moment, and I remain to, I guess, be convinced over the next few months that a lot of money has been spent, and I think you've brought in a fair amount of talent. But for the money spent, we really, I think, need to see 3 or 4 or 5 players that you go, that's who you build your next 3 or 4 years around. And Yeah, I guess you need to give him a couple months to let that play out. But that is my main thought coming out of this summer transfer window.
Yeah, I would have loved Cherny back, to be honest. Now, Oliver Antman can be, jury's out on the majority of them all. You'd have to say at this point in time, but I hope he has a good season. But yeah, I would have taken Václav Cherny in a heartbeat if that deal could have been sorted out between Rangers and Wolfsburg, but it wasn't to be, and he's going to now team up with Ridvan Yilmaz, which is interesting. I don't think many would have foreseen that this summer, but there you go. Interesting points coming in. I love this from JG. He says it's Ed Sheeran and Jarvis Cocker this morning. So, yeah, do you know who Jarvis Cocker is? Oh my days, dearie me. A legendary singer. Pulp. Do you know that the song? Disco.
You're gonna sing it.
I'm not going to sing it. I'm not going to quickly go through that. But yeah, what a band they were in the 90s, and yeah, an iconic figure in.
What were they called? What were the band called?
Pulp, P-U-L-P. You'll have heard some of their songs. You surely have heard some of their songs.
I know I'll be winding people up, but I'm sorry. not got the energy to fight back today.
Yeah, common people, as Darren Nisbet says.
I know
absolutely
that.
belting tune, but yeah, I'm not having Ed Sheeran either. Yeah, I'm not having that, but there you go. Moving on from that, lots of questions coming in. As we said, folks, we're going to give the floor to you guys, so send your questions in. An interesting one comes in here, and it sort of ties in with what myself and Blair ended the show with yesterday about what we feel is Rangers' strongest 11 and what formation we would like to see. I would like to see Rangers revert back to a 4-4-2. I got a lot of support for that, incidentally, yesterday as well, which I was surprised about. Comment coming in here. What formation would you guys go with? I would go 4-2-3-1. Buckland, Tav, Suter, Cornelius, Magoma. Incidentally, that's a backline me and Blair went with if we were in Russell Martin's shoes. Dio, Raskin, Gassama, Asgard, Antman, and Miovski. Does that look like a strong team for you? 4-2-3-1. We've seen it on Sunday against Celtic. Joshua, do you think that's something that we may see going forward, or will Russell Martin revert to 4-3-3 against Hearts, do you reckon?
I think 4-3-3 largely because, firstly, that team I'd kind of agree with it. I'd go Gigo over Suter, to be honest. I know he's had a bit of a shaky August. For me, Gigo's the epitome of a player so far that would probably be a really good secondary, like supporting centre back, but comes into a defensive line that is susceptible to make a lot of mistakes. I don't think Suter is void of that. So I'd be keeping him in there, and I think he can step out with the ball well. But aside from that, wouldn't have too many other arguments. I don't think you can say at the moment that Aarons and Rothwell should be in there over Tavernier and Raskin. I wonder to what extent, and we spoke a lot about this after the Old Firm. Martin adapted; he changed a little bit. I wonder to what extent that was also just players playing the occasion, playing the game that was there in front of them. I don't think you will see that approach against Hearts. The reason I think you'll see one kind of sitting midfielder instead of two is because Martin wants those high number 8s, and you get better angles if you've only got one player at the base of midfield, similarly to not wanting a winger and a fullback on the same line out wide. You don't want that in the midfield position. But I thought Diamandi was really good in that Old Firm game, Derek, and that's the frustration with him, is you think you just can't quite seem to bring that intensity to a game like Dundee at home. Gassama I would always have off the left. I think he's more effective there. I actually would have liked to see Antman go on the right and Gassama on the left on Sunday, because I thought Gassam as we should call him, is the one player who he's the one player who could have probably done something out of nothing in a game that was so void of quality in the final third. I think if anyone on that pitch was going to pick the ball up and chop inside and have a shot, it was probably him. And the only other thing I'd say about that team is you've spent up to £10 million in a striker. Like you can't bed them in for a season. You cannot bed them in. And again, speaking to someone who's making this point to me that you've spent a lot of money on two strikers together, and probably one's only going to play. Okay, maybe you
need to play two of them for me.
Maybe you go. I think there is a possibility, and it's been discussed internally, that you have a 3-5-2 at points. Which we saw in pre-season. I'm probably with you in terms of it. A lot of these home games, get as much of an offensive threat as you can. Tello Asgard should, in theory, bring that too. I know we've not seen much of him, but there was a lot of excitement when he came in the door. But yeah, probably will be more often than not 4-3-3. But you're not spending that. You can't spend that money on Chermiti and not have him right in that team from the start, Derek. I just don't think you can do that.
I agree, and I would like to see two up top, Miovski and Chermiti up there.
Just on that though, do you think either? I mean, we've not seen a lot of Chermiti, right? And again, just going off speaking to coaches who have worked with him, and I don't think either of those players are. People can correct me if I'm wrong with Miovski. I don't think he's a real linker, someone who's going to drop in, and he's probably better at that than Dessers maybe. But yeah, they seem like quite similar strikers who want to stretch play. That run that Miovski made where he had the penalty shout against Scales, that for me is his game. Stretching the play, which creates space for others to maybe drop in front of the defence, and he can link it at points. I wonder if stylistically they're quite similar. I don't know because we've not seen. I'm not going to pretend I've watched 5 Yusuf Chermiti games yet, but only a couple. But yeah, I don't know. I have my doubts about that.
Yeah, he's a big lad, isn't he? 6'4", if I'm not mistaken. So Miovski's quite a tall lad as well. So yeah, I'm with you. You don't spend that amount of money for a guy just to warm the bench. He'll be wanting to play. Miovski, I think, is a great bit of business on paper at least, but you need to play to his strengths. Like he wants balls played in behind, playing off the cusp of the shoulder, stretching the defence, as opposed to just playing balls to his feet. So hopefully that is something that they're working on during the international break, although Miovski's away with North Macedonia, I think they're referred to now. So not too sure when they're playing, incidentally. No, Raskin was part of the Belgium squad, unused sub last night as they beat Liechtenstein, if I'm not mistaken. And Scotland playing tonight, Denmark, aren't they? I wonder if John would probably be starting that game. So yeah, as long as the Rangers players come back unscathed, I think that's all you can ask for. This is an interesting point. Just off the back of that, Adam gets in touch. Says, do you think we will see Rangers being more pragmatic going forward? Sunday was very un-Russell Martin. Yes, I can't see him going away from his beliefs. I think Sunday was perhaps one of those games where he could not afford to lose it, and it looked very much that way on Sunday. If he had lost that game, you can imagine what the reaction would be like. You got to get booed. There was boos at full time, and that was just on a draw. So you can imagine what it would have been like if Rangers had came on off the back of a defeat in that one. I would be surprised, I've got to say, if he goes more pragmatic. I think that could be his undoing, though. I think a Rangers manager has to be pragmatic to be successful. As we've just been speaking about, they're playing two up top. It's not something we've relatively seen from Russell Martin's teams either. But the Hearts game is huge for me. We'll see if he's learned anything from the opening 4 league matches, or if he's sticking to his principles and the way he wants the game to be played. But that is I've said it before, Joshua, that's a monumental game for me because, like Celtic, you simply cannot afford to lose that.
So big. And
even draw it.
Yeah, no, you can't. You need to win it. And then you've got Hibs and Livy. I forgot that Livy was away. It's Livy away at the end of the month.
It's an ugly game.
It is. Will Rangers be more pragmatic going forward? So July and August, you have to add a bit of context, I think, to all these discussions, because you have players like Egerman and Dessers who know their future's probably elsewhere, and you have the Raskin situation. Even if there's two sides to every story. There's a lot of disruption, the transfer window, the amount of games, changing what you're doing in Europe to domestic. That doesn't exist from here on in. If there was any sort of caveat to be added to the difficulties of the last month, that cannot exist. And 2 points on the pragmatism. That was my reflection, same as Adam, after the game at the weekend, and with a bit of time and space, I've just started to think I wonder to what extent the game just takes over, because I think we're quite susceptible on the outside to think that everything's like the manager's got a chessboard at the side and he's moving pieces, and sometimes we can maybe over egg that a little bit. Definitely myself being one of the worst of that. But Johnny made a point. There was a very dramatic show people will remember after the Bruges game, where Johnny came on and started flipping off words he associated with John Gregg, and it was It
Got a
was
lot of praise. You got a lot of praise after that show I was seeing,
yeah,
which was alien.
he did. Yeah, he did. But within that, he kind of used this phrase of Poundland Pep, and this era is over.
Yeah,
I fundamentally disagree with that because one of the great, I think, misconceptions with someone like Pep and Arteta and others is that they adapt to win, whether it be the 4 centre-backs to win the Champions League, whether it be Arteta going unbelievably direct with David Raya all the time. When Arsenal first came close to winning the league, they were a pretty pure passing team with Gabriel Jesus up front, and then they had that really bad defeat. People will remember, Premier League purists will remember that really bad defeat to Man City away, where Rob Holding was like manhandled by Erling Haaland, and as a result, Arsenal went really physical. And there's this idea that we've discussed on the show this month as well. I think you've got 2 sets of managers, Derek. You've got a type of manager that is more informed by their ideal and more informed by what they want it to look like, which is like the Ruben Amorim kind of like, the system's all I got. We're going to double down and we're going to stick within it and its limitations because eventually it will come good. And then I think you have someone more like Arteta who has a general idea how the game wants the game to be played, but he's more, rather than being formed by the idealism of his idea, he is formed by the reality of it and more informed by the scars that he has picked up along the journey, so to put it. Those are the managers that I think are really successful, ones who have the fundamental idea, but then adapt a little bit outside of that. And I'm not sure yet where Russell Martin sits. I would put him more in the dogmatic side of that particular scale, but I just think that's a big misconception with modern football, that Guardiola's won all these titles by just playing one brand of football. He's had a core idea, but he's changed. No one has changed more, and you need to change and adapt to succeed. And just finally, the concern I've got is that Martin's football, I think, if you boil it down at the moment, if you're to boil it down to one word, I think it would be control. And I don't think Rangers are good enough on the ball yet to control games. If you were to boil it down to one word and it were to be about just attack and be really aggressive and super intense all the time, like you saw with Postecoglou's football, which was high risk but high reward, I think you can get away with that. At the moment, the underlying numbers have not supported that Rangers are just on the cusp of kind of turning a corner. So that would be my 2 concerns. Is there quite enough adaptation, and are we seeing too much control when we should be seeing more aggression, intensity? All that could change with a couple of good games in September when Rangers have had a bit more time. But that is, that's how I've kind of seen August personally.
Yeah, control to me translates to boring, and the football has been boring. And I know what he's trying to get at, but for me, it's not just that a Rangers thing as well. Football in the main is very mechanical now, isn't it? And you don't really see off-the-cuff entertainers anymore, a la a Hamza Igaman, people like that. People you would pay money to go and watch playing football. But that is the modern game, unfortunately. One of the reasons why I'd go back to the 4-4-2 and no-nonsense football. Simple as get it up to your creative players and let them do the work. That is why you're paying the money, not to watch John Souttar pass the ball to Nasser Giga, waiting for an opportunity to appear in the forward areas. But that is just my simplified view on the game.
Can I just put a little bit of what I think the reason is for? The reason I think is for that is that if teams sit back, you have to create space somehow. And what we saw with Clement was just like, oh, we're not going to create space. We're just going to get the ball forward, and you just lose it all the time. So I do think that the idea is you make the opposition team come out and press you, although that won't happen sometimes, which is where I agree with you. You've just got to get the ball forward quickly. But the idea is you get them to press you, then you create space in the next area of the pitch and you move up, and then you're moving into the final third in a controlled way into space. But because Dundee at home, right, teams just aren't going to press Rangers. So then I think the question is, well, what do you do about it? And interestingly, after that game, Martin said sometimes the best way to break down a low block is almost losing the ball, because you put the ball forward quickly, the opposition, they break out of their defensive plan and there's some space. I don't think we've seen enough of that. I agree with you. I don't think we've seen enough of that kind of spontaneity in the brief games we've seen so far of Rangers trying to kind of break down a low block.
we shouldn't be relying on teams like Dundee losing the ball to take advantage of it, in my opinion. No disrespect to Dundee, but you should have enough technicians in your team to find space, have open opportunities against teams like that. Anyway, moving on, Dan said he loved Johnny's inspirational Greg speech, so there you go. Thank you for your kind words. I'll pass that on. That'll make his head even bigger. Here, Chris, just tying in with what you said, Josh, Derek, with your rather Clement style of punting it constantly and turning the ball over. I think Clement would have more points on the board if he was still in charge. It's a hypothetical question, of course, but
do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
But Rangers had their lowest points tally last season since since Gerrard took over.
If you had the money that's been spent this summer, I think Rangers would not have been thumped by Club Brugge. They might have been put out, but I don't think they'd have been beaten by that ridiculous scoreline, and they would have at least a couple of wins on the board.
Fair.
My assumption.
It's fair, but that's why But also last season, like we did so many of these videos after games where it was, I remember 1-0 against Dundee at home, Chermiti scored, and it was actually one of the worst games of football I've ever seen. And you had all these games where Rangers.
What game was that? The Dundee game.
Yeah, 1-0. Chermiti scored a goal.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was in
ruled offside initially, and it was a bit of a weird celebration. We had all these games against like St Mirren and Motherwell and Dundee, whoever it may be, and no disrespect that Motherwell are playing some brilliant football now.
Yeah.
But last season in particular, these games are like end-to-end affairs because Rangers could not control the game. So that was a flawed approach. I agree with you that maybe with a little bit more investment, but still for the investment that was there, I think the product was really poor domestically. Really poor domestically. That is not to say that what we've seen so far is a solution. I think it's probably somewhere a little bit in the middle, but that's what stood out to me so far. I thought you would see more intensity in possession.
Okay. That's what we're told, yeah. That's what we're told.
And maybe you just need to get to September, and it is really early, and it's probably been a difficult place to play good football. But I even feel like remember the Panathinaikos game early on, Rothwell and Tavernier combined quite well, and you saw the fullbacks moving inside, and I feel like we've not seen any of that for a few games because it's just been, you're not seeing that at St Mirren away because the system isn't quite ready yet to go and win those games. So then it just becomes like an unfortunate middle ground that doesn't work, So that's why September is so key, because you've got to show a sustainable domestic template, which I think is what Thelwell, to be fair, was alluding to in that Rangers TV interview.
Yeah. Talking about that, Chris with the point says, what is Josh's thoughts on that? So he covered a number of issues. Myself and Blair discussed some of the big takeaways from it yesterday, Joshua. The transfer spending, the net spend 20 million quid, which is a lot, of course. It's factoring in loan fees, agent fees, and the likes in that. He also touched on the left back situation, saying that they've discussed internally at great length about that, and they're quite happy just going with Magoma. And he did rhyme off some players that can play there: Derek Cornelius, Mohamed Diamande, James Tavernier, and Max Aarons. Now, I've not seen Derek Cornelius play there, but I do not want to see that Diamande, Tav, or Aarons play there again, to be honest. But
you're going to, I think so.
As long as you don't see Bailey Rice there, I think that is that's something that you're not on board with. But I'm a bit sceptical about that. He's just 19, this boy, Joshua Magoma. I have a fear that he could be. I mean, he's not. He only played 12 games last season for Preston.
Yeah,
real risk of burning him out here.
The big difference if a 28-year-old James Tavernier is your only right back, who can be durable through that number of games. Magoma, I think he's impressed people quite a lot behind the scenes. It's confident, and Brentford has spent a lot of money on him, and you see that he's quite an adaptable player, because we saw him play as a really high fullback against Celtic because Rangers kind of changed the build-up shape. And I remember when we broke the story at the time that the presiding question after that was, is this guy's a backup, right? Like the big money first choice left back coming in is is going to be a player that Magoma supports.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time doing a bit of digging around it and just not finding that, kind of coming to the conclusion that I think this guy is going to be first choice. Now, I think he has done really well so far, but I agree the risk is, we saw it with Jeffy last season.
Yep.
These guys are so young, and it's a long campaign. He's not played nearly that amount of football in one season, so I think it's a risk. And one of the other players that was round off is Dujon Sterling. He was out running the other day. That clip was on social media. We've said for a while that our expectation is that Sterling will be back by about mid-October. All being well, he's recovered really quickly, a bit ahead of schedule, and he can play obviously right across the back four. But yeah, it's just there's not much of a left foot there. You're relying on Derek Cornelius being very good. I don't know too much about that move, but I'm presuming that if it is a one that is done late in the window, that was a move that Rangers pivoted more towards, as opposed to having him as like a first option at the start of the window. So yeah, the left back area, similarly to like the right, I think there's almost a bit of an imbalance in that team where there's loads of players in like the left side of the pitch who are comfortable, but not many who are comfortable at left back and are at their most comfortable kind of wide on the right side of the pitch.
Yeah. Love this suggestion from Headkeeper. It says Matondo can play left back, so there you go. Look forward to Rabi returning to the fold. Do you think he's not moved anywhere, Joshua? Do you think we can see a miraculous return to the first team setup from Rabi Matondo?
I'd be surprised because, again, like Rangers have like 3 or 4 players who are at their most comfortable on the left side of the pitch. I think Matondo's back in training this month. It was the plan.
Yep.
I don't know whether he's going to go back to train with the first team or whether, like others have, train away from the first team this summer. Clinton Nsiala is still with the under-19s. There's another player who could, Clinton Nsiala, come in and just give you a bit of cover at left back and be like not as a high and wide left back, but could he not fulfill the role of, say your build-up shape is 3 centre halves and your left back tucks in to form a third, almost like a left centre half.
Yeah,
I think he'd be fine there.
So do I.
Yeah, I think that would be a decent solution to him not going out the door. He had the offer of Dynamo Kyiv, which he didn't really want to take up. I think that would be a potential solution that could kill a couple of 2 birds with one stone. But no indications as of yet.
I know Russell Martin said at the start of the season that he had a discussion with Clinton Nsiala and were looking for solutions for him to go and play football. I would love to know why he's decided not to give him a shot. What is it in his game that he doesn't like? Because like you, I thought he would certainly form part of the 4 centre-backs of this season. I think he showed enough last season to see that there's potential there and there's enough to get, with the right coaching, that you can develop even further, but he's just not been given a look in for one reason or another. So it would be interesting to see what Russell Martin's thinking is on that one. Jack Payton, just on the left back, says the Rangers going to target a left back in the January window. That needs to be a priority. Don't you agree? I think it very much depends how Magoma gets on, where Rangers are by January. It's a long way away, to be honest. A lot can happen between now and then. But yeah, one to keep an eye on. This is an interesting point as well. Love questions like this. Andrew says, Derek Joshua, you think we should have signed Lennon Miller? And is there any Scottish player we should be targeting for future transfer windows? On the first point, that would have been good. But don't be crying moving abroad. Italians seem to have a fascination with Scottish players at the moment, and imagine they'll do very well with Udinese. Miller will have done well with that as well, getting a bit of cash in for Lennon Miller. It'll be intriguing to see how he performs. But decent player. On the other issue, I think the lad at Hibs certainly attracting attention. The boy Bowie up front is someone I think that will move on at some point in the future. I'm just trying to think if there's anyone else that you should be looking at. In the summertime, we're just talking about left backs. I thought Rangers should have went and just got a guy like James Penrice, to be honest, someone like that. I think could have done a job at left back. We've discussed Josh Mulligan on various videos. I think that was a move that should have materialised as well on a freebie. But you a fan of Bowie at Hibs, Joshua?
Yeah, and I don't know how much it'd cost Rangers this summer, but you're looking at that potential and thinking, listen, we're kind of playing football manager on the outside here. You're looking
Yeah.
at Seema moving and Cherny moving, and you're thinking, could that money be put elsewhere? You need to give time, I think, before you properly judge the Chermiti move. You can scrutinise it because of the money spent at the moment, but this is really like we've spoken a lot about English markets this summer and that Rangers were going to pivot back there as materialised. Chermiti is kind of the player that you will be associated with Kevin Thelwell and Dan Purdy in the new recruitment direction, because they obviously brought him to Everton and have real big belief in his talent. And yeah, we reported on it about 2 weeks before the window closed and said this is a name that all summer had been there, but had been there as like, this is where Rangers will go if and when Egeman and Dessers leave. And again, initially those discussions were about a loan deal, and the possibility of bringing him in permanently was evidently too good for Rangers to turn down. He's 21 years old and he's yet to play a lot of football. He could come up here, Derek, and score 5 goals and 6 goals in the first month, and people will never think about his price tag again. It's just a difficult place to develop players, especially in a time and environment like this one. So I'm really intrigued to see how that works out. We'll have, as I say, a piece with sport and youth coach who worked with them for a number of years coming out next week to give a bit more context. But yeah, that Kieran Bowie is the main one that stands out. I'd imagine that Hibs would want a lot of money if they were to sell him internally in Scotland.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. But he's moved in the summer. Said Max Johnston. He moved to Derby. I think that would have certainly looking long term, because Derby got a contract next summer. Aaron's, of course, who is not really impressed and is on a loan. I think that's certainly long-term planning and someone that I would like Rangers to have been looking at, but it wasn't to be. So there you go. Right, that will do us there. Big thank you to you all for all your questions. Very much appreciated. Thank you to Joshua as well for coming on the show. And over the weekend, keep your eyes peeled on the website, folks. We'll have you covered with all your Rangers content, despite the lack of action. Right, enjoy your Friday, whatever you are up to, and we shall chat again soon. Bye for now.